Imagine for a second you're standing in a kitchen. It's quiet. And on the table, there's no food, no laptop, just a single piece of paper, a deed. And the person looking at it, Cynthia Nevels, she says it's not a legal document. She calls it a prayer I don't yet know how to say.
That is such a striking image to start with. I mean, we're so used to seeing deeds as transactional. It's just a transfer of title.
Exactly, a box you check.
Yeah, but to call it a prayer, that suggests a level of hope or maybe desperation that you just don't find in a normal property deal.
And that's exactly where we're going today. We are doing a deep dive into this really raw diary entry from November 24, 2024. It's called Wild Dirt and the Audacity of New Beginnings. And look, usually we talk about a success story, right? The how I made millions. This isn't that.
No, not at all. This is the before picture, or maybe it's the during picture. It's a case study in the psychology of starting over, of reinvention. We're looking at what happens when you build something new while the wreckage of your old life is still smoldering behind you.
So let's lay out the facts. It's 1.62 acres in Freestone County, Texas. The price tag, $20,000.
Which is such an interesting number. In the grand scheme of real estate, 20 grand is, almost nothing.
A rounding error.
Right. But for her in this moment, that $20,000 is everything. It's not just money, it was squeezed from nothing.
Yeah, she says 3 months before this, that money just didn't exist. It wasn't savings. It was pure brute force hustle.
Yeah.
Proposals and late night strategy sessions is how she puts it.
And that gets us to this first big disconnect in the story. To earn that cash, she had to be a high-level strategist, writing proposals for CEOs, helping startups. She's the expert in the room for everyone else.
But for herself, she says her own life was a house on fire.
Exactly. It's that classic thing. The cobbler's children have no shoes, but, amplified to a crisis point.
Yeah.
She's brilliant for a client at 10 a.m., and then she's staring at her own complete ruin at 10 p.m.
And we should be talking about why her house was on fire. I mean, she is not shy about the failure. She talks about a vegan restaurant. She started that. Well, it wasn't just a misstep. It was a catastrophe.
A total collapse. She lists who she owes. The IRS, vendors, the landlord, that's the death spiral for an entrepreneur. Yeah. Once you owe the IRS, it's not just business stress anymore. It's an existential threat.
She reads this one line that I think we just have to stop on. She says, "Passion without capital is just expensive hope."
Expensive hope. Wow, that's such a brutal takedown of the narrative we're always fed.
Yeah, the follow your passion narrative.
Exactly. We're told if you just believe enough, if you hustle enough, you'll make it. And she's looking at the ashes of her business and saying, no, that is a lie. Passion is the fuel, maybe, but capital's the engine. And if you just pour fuel on the ground, you don't go anywhere. You just get a fire.
Which explains the pivot to land. She had to move from something that could, just vanish, like a restaurant concept, to something that physically cannot disappear.
Dirt. It's the ultimate tangible asset. A business can fail, a contract can be canceled, but 1.62 acres of earth? It's just there. It's physics.
So let's walk onto this land with her, because this is not some neat, flat, suburban lot.
Oh, this is wild dirt.
She describes vines thick as wrists, grass tall enough to hide secrets. It's pure chaos.
And that chaos on the land, it perfectly mirrors the chaos in her life. But then there's this other layer, the historical one. She's a Black woman in Texas owning this land outright, and she immediately thinks about her grandmother.
Right, her grandmother who cleaned houses for white families.
Yeah.
For pennies.
Homes she could never, ever own.
And she saved her coins in coffee cans. And now Cynthia's standing there, deed in hand. But it's not this, simple moment of triumph. She says she's terrified.
That's the nuance that makes this so powerful. We talk about generational wealth like it's a buzzword, but she's talking about generational pressure. She says she can feel her children's children standing behind her, breathing down my neck like ancestors in reverse.
Ancestors in reverse? What does that even mean to you?
It flips the timeline. We think of ancestors as behind us, pushing us. But for her, the ghosts are the future generations. They're haunting her. She's the bridge between the grandmother who couldn't own and the grandchildren who hopefully will. And being the bridge, that is an incredibly heavy job.
You're holding the weight of the past and the future at the same exact time.
And she's doing it alone. Which brings us to the next source of tension, her support system. Or the lack of one.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah.
Because her connection to her grandmother is so strong, but her connection to the actual man in her life, her partner, it's strained, to put it mildly.
It seems almost non-existent where it counts.
You says flat out, I didn't tell him about the land. She just bought it, kept it a secret.
Hmm.
Now, my first thought is that relationship is over. But is it more complicated?
Oh, absolutely. It's a form of what some psychologists call identity protection. Sometimes you have to keep your biggest dream secret, especially when you're this fragile.
She says you have to protect it from people you've let see you cry.
Exactly. Think about it. She's, to use her words, stripped down to studs.
Hmm.
If she tells him, hey, I just spent our last 20 grand on a snake-infested lot, what's he going to say?
Say she's crazy. He'll just see the problems.
He will bring logic to a situation that is running purely on faith, and that logic would just crush her. He can't see her vision of tiny homes rising like hope. He only sees the dirt and the vines. So her silence isn't just about hiding something. It's a defense mechanism. She's protecting this tiny little seedling.
Yeah. It's still so isolating, though. She says they're existing in canyons of space.
That isolation is the price of the ambition. I think that's a hard truth. We want to think everyone comes with us when we decide to change, but sometimes you have to create that space to become the person who can actually pull it off. He knows the version of her that failed. He hasn't met the land developer yet.
Speaking of developing land, let's talk about the reality here. She has the deed, but she fully admits she has no idea how to build a tiny home.
Zero idea. She lists it out. Septic, foundations, permits. She knows nothing.
So I had to ask, is this brilliant or is this just delusional? She's in debt, she's stressed, and she buys an asset she has no clue how to develop. Isn't that just reckless?
From a purely traditional, return on investment lens, yes, it's reckless. A bank would never give her a loan for this.
Yeah.
But if you look at it through the lens of survival psychology, it's genius.
How so?
Because she's betting on herself. She's betting on her ability to figure it out. It's a bet against the world's view of her as a single mother, a Black woman, a failed business owner. The market has counted her out. No one is coming to save her, so she has to be her own angel investor.
I'm investing in myself now. That's the line.
That's the key. She's not really investing in real estate. She's investing in her own power. By buying the land, she's buying the obligation to learn about septic permits. She's forcing herself to evolve.
It's like that old saying, burn the boats. She put all her money into the land so she can't go back. She has to move forward.
She has to. And let's not forget the snakes. She jokes about the land being full of snakes, but she doesn't care because it's hers. That ownership is everything.
It's an anchor.
It's the only solid thing she has. And when your life feels like it's on fire, you need some solid ground to stand on.
Towards the end, she uses a phrase that it really stuck with me. Terrifying freedom.
I love that. Terrifying freedom.
We always talk about freedom like it's this wonderful, happy thing, financial freedom. But she puts terrifying right next to it. Why do you think?
Because real freedom comes with total responsibility. If this fails, there's no one else to blame. It is just her, the 1.62 acres, and the snakes. And that is terrifying. But it's also the only place real growth can ever happen.
Somewhere under all that wild growth is ground solid enough to hold the weight of what comes next.
That's a statement of faith. She can't see the ground yet, but she believes it's there. It reminds me of the archaeology metaphor she uses about the layers of her life.
The tax bills, the failures.
Yeah, she's digging through all that. And I think this is the big takeaway for anyone listening. We think we need a clean slate to start over. Once I pay off my debt, then I'll start the business.
But she's doing it right in the middle of the mess.
She's doing it while the debt is there, while the relationship is a wreck. She didn't wait for the site to be clear. She bought the site so she could start clearing it.
I'm ready to clear a path. That's how she ends it. It's a shift from being passive to being active.
Mm-hmm.
So let's zoom out.
Yeah.
What does this mean for someone listening right now who maybe has their own failed restaurant in their past?
I think it redefines the word ready. We are obsessed with being ready, being qualified. Her story says that readiness is a myth. You just have to buy the deed and figure it out as you go.
And what about this idea of the wild dirt?
We all have our wild dirt, right? It's that thing you need to invest in, not because it makes sense on a spreadsheet, but because it proves to you that you are still in the game. It might be a class. It might be leaving a job. It's the scary thing that anchors you.
And it's accepting that maybe you have to lose everything you thought you were to build what you're becoming.
That's the real provocative thought here. She says maybe you have to lose everything you thought you were building to see what you're actually supposed to build.
That's heavy.
It is. But if you're looking at your own wreckage right now, that perspective, it flips the whole script. The loss isn't the end. The loss is just the demolition crew clearing the site for whatever comes next.
Wow. Well, this has been a journey. A reminder that sometimes the most important real estate is just the headspace to believe you can actually rebuild.
And the audacity to start before you know how you're going to finish.
Wild Dirt and the Audacity of New Beginnings. A pretty fitting title. Thank you so much for breaking this down.
My pleasure.
And to everyone listening, go find your wild dirt. We'll see you in the next deep dive.